Well, just leave it up to Matt Slick to completely go off the deep end and try to write an article about ifs, whiffs, whats, and fancies, right? Just be silly and come up with the craziest excuses of why it says the centurion came to Capernaum in Matthew 8:5, and Jesus spoke to the centurion. But we're told in Luke 7:1 all the way down through 13 that the centurion didn't actually come. He sent forth the elders, and he says, I did not consider myself worthy to come to you. So what Matt suggests now is it's plausible, since the centurion had army and he was on a horse probably, that he had time to show up on a horse and actually speak with Jesus. And then he galloped home, I guess, on his horse to check up on his sick servant. And then he sent forth the elders when Jesus was on his way to the house. And then the centurion said, I did not consider myself worthy to come to you. So he sent forth for the friends from his house. Oh, yes, Matt. Oh, yes. It makes perfect sense that, yes, he didn't consider himself worthy to come to Jesus out of his house, but he galloped all the way to Capernaum on a horse and met with Christ. Then he galloped back, and then he's like kind of being agoraphobic, and he doesn't want to come out of his house. Now he sends forth his friends, and they come to him. Okay, no. The clear reading is that the centurion came to Capernaum, but he didn't. He sent forth the elders. The elders are the ones who come on his behalf. Then when they come back, the centurion sends friends to meet with Christ, right? And then he says, I did not consider myself worthy to come to you. I did not consider myself worthy to come to you. Not, I did not consider myself worthy to come to you the second time, or I felt really bad since I met you. You know, I was kind of a little bit abrasive and kind of harsh. So the second time around, I kind of wanted to stay home and send forth the elders. See, this is the perfect example of what happens when somebody is in a lie and they want to defend their doctrine. They'll come up with all kinds of crazy excuses and analogies to try and get out of this, okay? Matt's got some of the silliest arguments I've ever seen, and I didn't read the paper. I happened to keep watching his video here right after he booted me off. And then he said, oh, he can come on Discord and maybe we'll have a dialogue, but he's got to answer questions. Matt, I was answering questions. You didn't like the answers I gave you. But this one takes the cake. Now Matt has got the centurion on a horse galloping, I guess, to Capernaum to meet with Jesus. He meets with Christ there, and then he gallops back home, I guess, to check on his servant, which there's no evidence of this in the gospel. It never mentions this at all. This is Matt's fantasy only. Matt is stroking his fantasy. Then when he gets back home, for some reason, he doesn't consider himself worthy to come to Jesus now, so he sends forth the elders. So he was okay to come to Jesus first, but after the dialogue, it says he did not consider himself worthy to come to Jesus. This is a classic example, again, of what happens when you're lost in chaos, confusion, and disillusion, and you will come up with all kinds of excuses to get around the fact that the centurion did not really show up. Again, this is a classic example of why dialoguing with most Trinitarians, especially Trinitarian apologists like Matt Slick, is a waste of time. And the reason why I do it is to point this out to people. Enjoy.
Okay. Anyway, I'm going to get frustrated with the guy because he kept interrupting and wouldn't listen, didn't answer. So, anybody else?
Yeah. Stuff out of Second Moronicles.
Yeah. Yeah, I've written an article actually on the centurion thing.
Yep.
Who brought the centurion's request to Jesus as is depicted in Matthew 8 and Luke 7. It clearly states a centurion came to Jesus in Matthew 8. But it also says the Jewish leaders came to Jesus. The order of events seems to be that the centurion first sent the Jewish elders. What's on my foot? Okay. Then Jesus agreed to go. Then the centurion came to Jesus. Jesus walked everywhere he went, and the centurions commanded 100 men groups in the Roman legion. Such men are prestigious members, etc. Therefore, the centurion most probably had a horse upon which to ride, and from where Jesus was, to and from where Jesus was. If this is so, then he probably returned to his home, checked on the servant, and then sent friends to speak to Jesus and say that he, the centurion, was not worthy for Jesus to even enter his home. Jesus continued on. Then as Jesus neared the home, the centurion himself approached Jesus to tell him he was not worthy to talk to him. So there's an answer to that, but this guy just won't listen.